Alrighty, folks, we're here to review Season 1, maybe the only season of The Penguin on HBO Max. This is brought to you by PDS Debt. This series is awesome. It is awesome beginning to end. It really is ballsy in its depiction of the Penguin. Yes, he's warped. Yes, he's screwed up. Yes, he has some charming things about him, but this is a series that basically says that evil exists in human form, and that is the Penguin. It's just great. What's great about the series is that you could totally take it outside the Batman universe and it would work completely. There's nothing sort of supernatural. There's nothing cartoony about it per se. In fact, the only reference to the Batman anywhere in the entire series is literally in the final shot of the entire season. So take you back to the end of the Batman film from Matt Reeves. Carmine Falcone, who's the head of the Falcone crime family, he is dead. He's been killed at the end of the Batman. And so now the question becomes, who's going to take over the Falcone family? And so this entire series is sort of revolving around that battle internally. And there are a bunch of candidates to take over the crime syndicate that is Gotham City. So a few of the contenders, you have members of the Falcone family, uncles and cousins and all that. And then you have Sophia Falcone, who later titles herself Sophia Gigante. She's played by Christian Milioti, who is tremendous in this role, like really, really good. Her backstory is that she was supposed to be heir apparent to Carmine, and then she figured out that Carmine is actually a murderer, that Carmine has a bad habit of strangling prostitutes and probably also her mother, and she makes that clear to Carmine, and so Carmine has her put in Arkham Asylum where she remains for 10 years. Even though she's obviously not crazy, he basically has her convicted on the charge of murder, suggesting that she killed all of these prostitutes, which isn't true. She's given the nickname the Hangman, which also isn't true. She gets out and she's ready to burn everyone down to the ground. So that's her motivation. Meanwhile, her former driver, who's now a top henchman to Carmine Falcone, and now to his son, Alberto Falcone, is the Penguin, who is Oswald Cobb, played by Colin Farrell, totally unrecognizable. And if you didn't know that was Colin Farrell, there is no way in hell you know that that's Colin Farrell. The accent is different. The voice is different. The bearing and the carriage, totally different. It's one of the great screen performances I've ever seen. It really is phenomenal. See, I love it when there's an actor working and you can't tell it's the actor. The actor just disappears into the part. I've never seen that better personified than Colin Farrell on screen in this miniseries. So, Colin Farrell is the Penguin. At the very beginning of the series, he kills Alberto Falcone for insulting him. And now he's stuck with, okay, what do I do? And so this becomes a battle between Sophia Falcone, who really just wants to let the baggage of her family go and then take over the family and then maybe not take over the family, and Oswald Cobb, who totally wants to take over the family, and he wants to do that because he wants to make a better life for his mom. And as we learn over the course of the series, there are a lot of reasons why he feels this necessity to take care of his mom. You move during this miniseries from thinking Oswald Cobb, kind of a good guy, right? Like he's kind of a blue-collar dude who's trying to work his way up in the system, always overlooked, to, oh my God, he's Satan. At the very beginning of the series, he says something like, the city took his brothers, and you assume that means that they got wrapped up in the drug trade or they got killed in a gang war. It turns out that he actually murdered them. He just locked them inside a subway system, sewage system, and then they were drowned while he was sitting with his mom watching an old Fred Astaire movie. So, he's a really, really bad person. And again, that transformation sort of happens over the course of the series. At the very beginning, you think that he's sympathetic because one of the people that he takes in is a kid named Vic. Vic, who's played by Renzi Feliz, super sympathetic. His entire family was killed by the terror attack that happens at the end of the Batman, and he kind of gets caught up in a life of petty crime. He enters the series while he's trying to steal the rims off of Oswald Cobb's car, and instead of killing him, Oswald Cobb decides that he's going to take him under his wing and make him his protege, essentially. And so over the course of the series, what you see is this kid beginning to see Oz as a sort of father figure, as a temporary father figure, somebody who's going to lead him into this broader, better life for himself. We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, getting into credit card debt, really, really easy. Getting out, well, the system is set up so you can't. If you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills, you really need to check out PDS Debt. PDS provides a service to match you with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation. If you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies. There's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit accepted. And I know a lot of people who've gotten into debt and it gets brutal. I mean, brutal. You start racking up those interest rate charges, you are done, which is why you need PDS Debt. They strive to understand your specific scenario. They can help provide alternative solutions to becoming debt-free. Save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. time. Stop waiting, start saving. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/Shapiro today. Again, pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. You see that debt piling up? You got to get it solved. PDS Debt's going to help you. Go to pdsdebt.com/Shapiro right now to get started. Okay, so the entire series revolves around battle between these characters, and then, of course, you have the great Clancy Brown as Salvatore Maroni, who is great. He's also another one of the contenders who's on the scene. He is going to compete with the Falcone family and probably with Oz in order to figure out who's going to take over the city. You have Francis Chow, who's playing Zhao, who's the leader of another one of the criminal gangs in the city. And again, the writing in this series is so good. It is so good because you really see the motivations of all the different characters. You see them played off against one another. And again, what they do with Oz over the course of the series is just great. So they do something fascinating with Sophia, which is they move her from totally sympathetic to less and less sympathetic as the series goes on, because it turns out she commits a murder of pretty much everyone in her family. And then she has to cram down that murder on like a small child. Like there's a small child she saves, and the small child, she basically says, yeah, I murdered everybody and they deserved it. And she obviously is the most sympathetic character. By the end of the series, she's trying to get away. She like burns down everything and she wants to get on a plane and leave, and Oz doesn't let her. He basically pins everything bad that's been happening with crime on her so that he can get in good with the political higher ups in the city of Gotham. Oz is the one who's fascinating. So you start off at the beginning thinking of Oz, again, as a sympathetic character, as somebody who's been victimized by life. He has a handicap. He's obviously overlooked. He's ugly. He's somebody who sort of hangs with the proletariat, right? His crew is the prostitutes and the third raters at various gangs. And over the course of the series, what you see is that he is really, really quite evil, like willing to subject his mother to torture. And the last scene, so this is very polarizing. The very last scene, he's sitting next to Vic, and Vic says that he's family. And then Oz reaches over and kills him. He says, family is a weakness. I love this. It's great. It's great. I understand a lot of people are rooting for Vic to sort of continue, and that's fine. But him killing Vic is the final capper on the idea, no, this guy is evil, and he needs to be stopped. So again, the acting throughout the series is great. It's beautifully shot. The writing is just terrific. There are about 4 different episodes where I finished the episode. I thought, wow, that's got to be the best episode of the season. And listen, I have my critiques. There's certain things like in the last episode, Deirdre O'Connell, who plays Frances Cobb, who's Oz's mom, she's been taken by Sophia, and they've unlocked her memory. So it's now clear that she knows that Oz killed her other 2 kids. And there's this great scene where he's tied up, and he will not admit that he did that, because to admit that would be to destroy his mother's love once and for all, but she already knows. And so she actually stabs him. And then he sort of breaks out of his chair and escapes. And you know, when there are sort of plot devices like that, it's like, really? Would Sophia Falcone be sitting there with no one armed with a gun pointed at this guy as he sits there tied up in the chair? Would you really put him on a chair rickety enough that he could just break the chair apart and then escape without being shot? But, you know, I get it. You know, there are a lot of people who have to use these sort of plot devices. Okay, fine. But the overall point of the show, which is that evil people exist and there is no bargaining with them and there is no way to sort of rehabilitate them. That is the obvious theme of the show. So I can't wait to see now Batman 2, because I assume that he's going to be the big baddie in Batman 2. Colin Farrell has made the first truly iconic Penguin. I say that advisedly. I understand that a lot of people like Danny DeVito in the original Penguin, but it's parodic, it's silly, it's meant to be silly. This guy is not parodic, he is scary, he is frightening, he's a frightening human being, he's totally corrupted, his soul is corrupted. I loved it, like 5 out of 5. Awesome series, one of the best series on Max, maybe ever. That good.